welcome. I think that it's important to know that the Underground, I would say, began as a critique. It evolved into an experiment, and now, after about 10 years, we've become, I think, an example. But like all communities, our built space has a theology to it. Every time we organize or put together facilities or space, it says something about who we are and what we believe. And I think the Underground began with this notion of what would or could the church look like if it was organized entirely around mission, and actually saying yes to people who felt some sort of call to do something by God in the world for the world. Instead of thinking about the church as something that we gather people in, it's actually something to equip or send people out. And so this building, this space reflects that value. And it turns out, at least to some degree in our city, we were right. People had that yearning and they just needed support. And so this building reflects that. It reflects our desire to serve what was already inside, the sense of destiny, calling to serve or help or share the kingdom of God with others. So that's what this place is. Yeah. So this space, this is one of our bigger kind of reservable rooms, but actually we call this building the Hub, and it belongs to the 140 plus communities, micro churches that are part of the network. And so actually 90% of this building, which is about 36,000 square feet, 90% of it is actually not assigned. It's reservable, it's usable by any of those ministries at any time. And for the people that are in the network, those services are free. We call this room the banquet room, but there's other pieces that are sort of off of this room, and maybe this sort of quarter of the building is almost like a little conference area. You could use it for banquets or smaller events or really anything. This little room we call the Dream Room. This is just a space for people to gather in their teams. A lot of our mode of operating is that we don't influence the way these ministries run. We don't operate with command and control. We trust them. We believe in their autonomy to run their own ministries. All we really do is hold them to a kind of standard. What unites us is we share a common set of values, and we expect to sort of people to lead at a certain moral and character standard. So this free clinic has now been dedicated to be a free clinic for people who have no insurance or who are sort of excluded from healthcare systems, documented, or people that just don't have access to insurance. And because a lot of our ministries and our microchurches work with people who are poor, that's an emphasis. Actually, a free clinic, even just for the people that we touch, that those 140 some ministries touch, is a need. And of course, our hope is that the clinic would serve even more people than that. But initially, that's our reason for creating a free clinic. So yeah, this is probably my favorite space, because this is, right at the heart of our concept is the idea of sharing. And so obviously, we were always going to have a co-work space. I love this idea of one big table that people could sit at. So some of these little workstations are kind of semi-permanent. People are there many days a week, and others are just open because our community is so big. It's about 60 people that office here in this building. All these private offices are taken. Many of them have more than one person in them. It's just the idea that, okay, in some of these little startup ministries, you might have 2 people, 3 people on their staff or working at their thing, and they work alone, and they don't have the budget to get an office space or something. Or maybe they just work by their bed, and it's hard to get motivated when your office is by your bed, and there's something that happens, the synergy of just coming to a place where you're working with other people. They're not doing the same thing as you necessarily, but they share the same set of values. They have the same sort of passion, desire to see the kingdom come. And so there's something that we draft off of each other. There's a kind of synergistic quality. And then just practically, it's a matter of sharing. So, for example, we estimate that we save, because there's about 100 ministries that use our printer copier system, we save the kingdom about $100,000 a year.
Wow.
Because people don't have to go get their own printer contract, because they don't have to get their own internet, because we're willing to just do something as simple as share. So we pay the bill, and it serves all these ministries, and that's money they don't have to spend. That's money they don't have to raise. That's money they don't have to spend. Something they're doing. So something as simple as sharing is actually really radical and profound in a world that's super competitive, creates like even ministry silos, like people feel like they're competitors with each other. So all these diverse kind of people doing diverse kind of things. I mean, just even looking here, you've got Creative, which is working with women coming out of prostitution, the sex industry. Across here, you have One Roof Initiative, which is working with families and kids with special needs. You've got Hula for Happiness, which is trying to share the gospel through the medium of hula hoops all over the world. You've got New York. I could just go down the line. Each of these little rooms represent really unique people doing something that God has put in their hearts and they're passionate about doing. And we get the privilege of sharing space with them and life with them. There's a couple things with a little library here that people can use. There's 2 conference rooms which are reservable, usable. A couple little kind of alcove spaces that people can use. So we'll go down.
Okay.
Obviously, this auditorium is just kind of a standard space, but because we know that many of these kind of medium-sized ministries, because some of the microchurches are never going to be more than 10, 12 people serving the homeless or running a program for kids or something. But many of them, they're big. They grow to the capacity of the leaders they have, and many of them are hundreds of people. And so it's very common that they need a space to run a conference or have some kind of an event that they want to do. And so this space also belongs to them, and they can use it for whatever they want. Of course, we use it too for the events we run. But what's meaningful to me about this room, though, is the way we spend money. Because a lot of the critique we had for the church is that it was wasteful with money. They take up offerings, they say this money is given in the name of God or for God or something like that. But it didn't always seem to me like the money was going to God or to the things that God cared deeply about. There wasn't that sort of care taken with the money the way that it should have been. So we thought, well, let's do that different too. So we do collect money. All the people that are part of the community, the network, they make a pledge and they give each year something, some amount that they commit to give. I mean, this year I think that amounts to around $600,000. But that's not enough to run the whole network. I have to raise money, my staff have to raise money in addition to that. But that money is sacred, it's special in a sense. It becomes like the common purse for the missionary community. And we take a little more than 50% of that money is given away. It's a grant program effectively. And so some of that money goes local, about half of that goes local, and about half of it goes globally to people that are working around the world doing heroic things for the poor, for the expansion of the gospel, whatever. So dollars matter. Because you're talking about like social workers and teachers and missionaries, people that don't have a lot of money, when they give money to something, when they say, we want to give, this is all we have to give, you feel a trust, like a sacred trust to use it well. So we just can't, I don't feel the liberty to waste money. So actually, if you look around this whole building, you have about 30,000 square feet of 35,000, which is not floored. There's no flooring, which you figure, that's going to be minimum $30,000 to $40,000 to put flooring down. So to us, that's money. That's money that could be used for mission. That's money that could go back into kingdom work. So there's no way we're spending money on that if we don't have to. These chairs are a good example too. They're different. So there's 2 sort of lots here, which we found on Craigslist. And to get these kind of reclining chairs, you're talking about $50 a chair, something like that.
Jeez.
So 500 chairs, you're looking at, what is that, $25,000? And that to us is just, it's not acceptable. So I think we found these chairs for $2 each or $1.50 each, something like that. So you're talking about, what is that, $1,000 for the chairs? And then we put them in ourselves, so drilling in, tap conning all of these. I think Jeremy may have gotten some sort of slip disc or something from doing it. But each thing sort of represents, for me, it represents how we feel about money. And that actually you can have a space which is alive with the presence of God. Look, when this place gets filled with missionaries and they worship, it's not like anything I've ever been a part of. I mean, there's something about missionaries, desperate people who are really living out their faith, when they're together, when they listen, hungry, desperate for the voice of God, when they reach out in worship and they hear Him prove them in some way in that dance of worship. It's just incredible. And we just don't need expensive things.
Yeah.
The sound system, for example, I know you can spend like $100,000 on a sound system. The sound system was great, and I think we spent $1,500 on it. Some of that was donated, probably. We got this and that from here and there. But the truth is, you just don't have to spend that kind of money if you have the will to not do it. So this room represents, for me at least, it represents maybe a diminishing of that big space, which means so much to so many people. And to us, this isn't even the most central space.
And you guys meet here on Sundays as well.
We do. So because that's a need that we perceived that people had, and they would say to us, we didn't at first. They would say, can we have some sort of worship gathering on Sundays for us? And of course the answer is always yes, if that's what these guys need. And some of them come, just their leaders come. Some of them bring their whole community. Some of them don't come at all because it's not a need they have, and that's totally fine with us. The thing we do on Sunday morning is not central at all to our ethos, to our operation, even to our community. It's good. It's good for people to be together, and we try to, effectively what we're saying is, don't give up, and God is pleased with your work. Well, that's it. Thanks for walking around with us. Looking at the place. That's our spot. That's our space. It's the hub.
It's inspiring. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.